Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a highly significant military action from May of 2025, Operation Sindoor. We're going to unpack the source material to give you the facts, plain and simple. We'll look at the initial catalyst on the ground, and then zoom all the way out to the high-level strategic and diplomatic calculations that followed. It's a really fascinating look at the intelligence, the military execution, and the broader geopolitical ripples of this major event. Let's get right into it. So, here's the ultimate dilemma of modern geopolitics. How exactly does a nation respond to a severe security breach without accidentally sparking a massive, uncontrollable wider conflict? It's like walking a tightrope, right? When a nation faces a severe threat, action is demanded. You absolutely have to protect your citizens and neutralize the danger. But that response has to be precisely calibrated. Go too hard, and you risk full-blown escalation. Literally every single tactical and strategic decision made during Operation Sindoor revolves around this incredibly delicate balancing act. All right, Section 1, the spark in Pahalgam. The whole rapid sequence of events traces back to early May 2025. It started with a really tragic terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, which resulted in the heartbreaking loss of innocent civilian lives. Naturally, this immediately triggered a national security response. But here's the thing, the transition to a kinetic military strike was definitely not instantaneous. There was this absolutely crucial intermediate phase in mid-May, focused incredibly intensely on intelligence gathering and precision planning. So it actually wasn't until late May 2025 that the physical execution of the Operation Sindoor strikes took place. There was a very deliberate, calculated pause between the initial spark and the military reaction. When those strikes did happen, the official statements outlined in our source were very clear. The operation aimed strictly at cross-border terrorist infrastructure. We're talking specifically about facilities linked to groups responsible for planning and supporting terror acts. Now, what's hugely important to note here, and the source material really hammers this home, is that these strikes were executed with the primary objective of avoiding unnecessary civilian casualties. The entire mission was laser-focused on those identified targets, prioritizing absolute precision over broad destruction. Moving on to Section 2, launching Operation Sindoor. So what were the actual goals here? Well, the source outlines four main multi-layered objectives behind the mission. First up is the immediate one, respond directly to terrorism and neutralize the active threat. Second is the state's fundamental duty, protect national security and keep citizens safe. But the third and fourth points? Those are all about projecting into the future. The operation was designed to actively deter future attacks, basically sending a crystal clear signal that there is a severe cost to planning this stuff. And fourth, to demonstrate national resolve. The strike itself was a powerful communication of intent, just as much as it was a kinetic military action. This brings us to Section 3, Technology and Joint Operations. Pulling off a complex operation like Sindoor requires a flawless sequence. It all kicks off with intense intelligence gathering, pulling in multiple assets to pinpoint targets with total accuracy. That intel then feeds directly into precision planning, where commanders literally map out exact entry and exit strategies. But, a plan is only as good as its execution, which brings us to real-time coordination. This part is vital because Sindoor was a joint forces execution. It required totally different branches of the armed forces to work together seamlessly, syncing their movements down to the absolute second to achieve that one unified objective. And how do they achieve that kind of synchronization? Well, the source really highlights the essential role of modern tech in today's military ops. You've got precision-guided weapons ensuring the target is hit while minimizing any collateral damage. On top of that, advanced surveillance systems are serving up highly detailed intelligence long before any physical moves are made. And the whole shebang is tied together by real-time communication networks. This lets joint forces coordinate on the fly and adapt to whatever chaos happens on the ground. It's this specific technological trifecta that lets a modern military hit their targets while officially aiming to protect civilian lives. Okay, let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, the broader security strategy. Look, from a national security standpoint, an operation like Sindoor firmly reinforces a commitment to protecting citizens through continuous vigilance and military preparedness. It shows you can act decisively when you have to. But as we know, military ops require incredibly careful boundaries to prevent things from spiraling out of control. And that, my friends, is exactly where diplomatic engagement steps in. Responsible decision-making and continuous dialogue on the international stage are honestly just as critical as military readiness. A state definitely needs its protective shield, but it relies just as heavily on ongoing diplomacy to keep the entire region stable. Because here's the reality. Terrorism isn't just an isolated issue you can solve in a vacuum. The message sent by Operation Sindoor, according to our source, is that terrorism remains a serious, ongoing global challenge. And since it crosses borders, tackling it effectively demands international cooperation. Literally no single nation can completely eliminate this threat alone. It takes a unified global network of intelligence sharing and diplomatic alignment to actually dismantle these transnational networks for good.
Let's look at the human element in Section 5, the officer's perspective.
There's this fantastic perspective from a future officer in the source material that states, courage, discipline, leadership, teamwork, and professionalism are essential. And I just love that because it grounds all this high-tech hardware and grand geopolitical strategy in pure, raw human fortitude. Behind every single precision-guided weapon and advanced comms network, there are real people who have to possess these core qualities to make the operation successful. At the end of the day, the human element is always the deciding factor. And expanding on that human element, the source details the immense mental pressure placed on these military officers. I mean, think about it. During these high-stakes strikes, they have to remain absolutely calm under pressure, completely filtering out the chaos to focus on the objective. They have to make incredibly timely decisions where literal fractions of a second can alter the entire mission's outcome. And above all else, they must always act according to the law and the specific boundaries of their mission. It is a stark reminder of the immense operational bounds and profound responsibility resting on the shoulders of the folks actually executing these missions. Finally, we arrive at Section 6, the final assessment. So, what does this all mean? Well, Operation Sindoor clearly demonstrates the absolute necessity of preparedness, solid intelligence, and coordinated security measures. But military might? That's really only half the equation for lasting peace. The source explicitly reminds us that long-term stability requires both effective security measures and continued diplomatic efforts working in tandem. One addresses the immediate burning symptoms of conflict, while the other works quietly to resolve the underlying conditions. You simply cannot achieve lasting peace without both of these variables actively functioning together. Which leaves us with this final thought. Based on everything we've broken down today regarding Operation Sindoor, ask yourself, can lasting really be secured through military strength alone? Or is diplomacy ultimately the most powerful weapon we have? It is a fascinating question about the balance of power, and definitely one worth pondering long after this explainer ends. Thank you so much for diving into this complex topic.